Well, hello. Welcome back to my kitchen. It's Free Spirit, a very wind-blown free spirit. Can you hear that wind out there? It's creaking. The house is creaking like we're on a boat. It's unbelievably windy. It's not that cold, but I'm supposed to go to the city today, and I postponed it until Monday. So I have all day with you. So I'm gonna cook this recipe. Finally. I've been wanting to do this for so long that I actually already used up the whole bag of onions and had to buy a new bag. But we're ready. We're ready today. I'm really looking forward to this. It's a vegan recipe, and the site where I found this recipe originally is mayihavethatrecipe.com. mayihavethatrecipe.com. And it's listed as vegetarian because she used regular cheese on this one, so you could do it with regular cheese, or you could do it with a vegan version, which I'm going to try today. Alright, so this is a recipe for French onion soup, minus the beef stock and minus the dairy cheese. So let me go over the list of ingredients. We'll be using 4 tablespoons extra virgin olive oil. I don't often measure the olive oil. I try to use a little bit less, probably. 4 large sweet onions sliced. It sounds like a lot, but we're going to cook it and cook it and cook it. We're going to caramelize them, but we're also going to concentrate amazing flavor and just break them down so that as you eat the French onion soup, they just melt in your mouth. Next, we need ½ teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of sugar, and 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Just using some unbleached bread flour because it's already open. Next, we need 6 cups of mushroom broth. Well, I couldn't believe I found organic mushroom broth. But there was only one, so it's only about 4 cups. But that's okay because I usually use a vegetable broth and then a lot of fresh mushrooms that I cook, maybe saute, and then add to some vegetable broth. And then when it's done, you can puree it and pass it through a sieve to make a richer, thicker broth. But today I'm going to heat this one up, and then I'm going to throw in the chopped mushrooms, and then just let it boil down and concentrate for a little bit. And then I'll either strain out the mushrooms or maybe I'll puree them, but they're a little bit on the older side. I've already used part of one box, and so this is what I have left. And this is a good thing to do with mushrooms when they're starting to get just a little bit old. There's no mold or anything on them, no fuzz, but they are getting a little bit soft, so this is a great way to use them just to make them into some nice flavor for the French onion soup. And next, we're looking for a vegan Worcestershire sauce. Well, I don't have any of that, but I've been using good old Marmite. Marmite meaties. Yeah, I use a little bit of this, so 1 tablespoon. And a half a cup of dry white wine. Well, I don't usually buy white wine, so I have found that using a dark lager, I have 1/3 of a cup of Sammy's, Samuel Adams Boston Lager. Samuel Adams Boston Lager. Good old New England girl likes the Sammy. So I have a little bit of that. And next is going to be some cracked black pepper. Shakerdilio. And French baguette. Because, of course, once you make the soup, you put cheese, and then you put French bread, a little bit more cheese, and you put it into the broiler. But I've actually found that rather than buying bread specifically for this dish, or trying to keep it fresh, or trying to... I really enjoy using these croutons. Let me see if I can put this light on. Will that help? That's a little bit better. So these are seasoned croutons, organic. So they're basically seasoned with garlic and onion. So, but they stay nice and crisp, and they're just little bites, so it's easier to eat, I think. But I'll show you. You see what you think. Put that back here. And that's the last of the ingredients, except for the cheese. So instead of traditional cheese, I'm going to give this one a shot. I don't care too much for the follow your heart cheese. The Miokos is a little bit better, I think, but this one is smoked Gouda. And since we're going to be melting it into the soup, I think it's going to be really good. This is dairy-free smoked Gouda style slices. All right. And let me see. All right. So this recipe requires a bit of patience because, as I said, we're going to cook these onions for quite a long time. So let's get the onion sliced up. I have the world's greatest helper. No, not Abby. I have this slicer machine. That's what I call it. I don't think it's a mandolin, but it slices, it dices, it grates. It has different blades that you can pop in and out. Slides right in there, like that. This top comes off, but you can also just pull out this drawer, and that's where all your sliced vegetables or cheese or whatever will be right there. It's pretty easy to clean out. You have to be super careful because they're exquisitely sharp blades. And at the bottom here is where you adjust the height of the blades so that you can get thinner slices or thicker slices. Margot thinks since I'm in the kitchen that they should get treats, and she's gonna bother me, so I'm gonna ignore her. They had breakfast just a little while ago. They're just bored. It's a windy, awful day. The birds aren't really hanging out for them to watch. So yes. So once we get the onion sliced, we'll be heating up the oil in the saute pan, adding the onion sliced and some salt, and that's going to be cooking for 30 minutes. 30 minutes. And that's not all of it, because after the 30 minutes, and in the beginning there's a lot of moisture, so you don't have to be stirring it constantly, but you do have to keep an eye out. Set the timer, 30 minutes, be patient, not too high, just let it cook and cook and cook. Alright, the salt's going to draw the liquid out and it's going to evaporate off as it concentrates that onion flavor. And then we're going to add some sugar, and then we're going to cook it for another 30 minutes, because then it's going to caramelize and all that sweetness and onionness is going to be brought to the very peak of perfection. And then we'll be adding the liquid and letting it cook just a little bit, then putting it into these beautiful little containers that I have that are oven proof. And then we'll put the toppings on, and I'll show you my new convection oven, air fryer, toaster, 10-in-1, whoop-de-doo-dee. It's a Ninja Pro thing. So it's a replacement because my oven died and my toaster oven died in the same week. So I'll show you how that works. I'm really loving it. And now let's get to these onions. I'm going to zoom you in a bit. There we go. And I don't really need the recipe for a while. Now, watch this. So this one on top has prongs. If you push and pull on the little handle, it exposes these little sharp little pins that you squish into whatever you're going to slice, so it holds it firmly in the track. And this thing works great for onions. I think it's like the most perfect thing for onions because they fit perfectly on there. So let's start. Here's the first onion. I'm just going to slice off the bottom and the top. Making sure I go in just far enough to get past the core. Okay. Tired that. I'll just take the skin off. And that first papery layer. Okay. Now, this one fits perfectly on here. I'm going to be very, very careful. I'm going to put this one on top like this. I'm going to push those pins down real tight. And now I'm going to start sliding back and forth. And when I get lower and lower, this little edge is going to come around this edge and hold it firmly. Getting a little uneven, just put more pressure. Or you could turn it around. Now we're getting low enough. It's gripping on the sides. to the flat part and pull that off. Let's pull our tray out. So here's one onion, very thinly sliced, nearly paper thin. This will actually cut down on the cooking time somewhat, because I've usually cut them a little thicker. But I think this is really good. Alright, on to number 2. Ready to go. And just chop that one up by hand. We'll still end up with one last thick slice, and we'll just chop that up when it's time. Okay. Ta-da! My eyes are watering. Okay. Take those right there. Onion number 3. Technically, you can leave one end on and just peel around it so that you can get a little further down. But this is the way I do it. And if you're a purist, you can save all these cuttings and throw them into a pot with some other veggie castaways and make a nice vegetable stock. Or put them in a compost pile, which is most likely what would happen. So this one's a little, well, I don't know, it's a little wide, but I think it's going to be okay. I'm going to put this back. I'm going to put it on number 2. So we'll have some that are really thin, but we'll have some a little bit thicker. Okay, here we go. This outer part is a little hard. Okay. Go. And the last one. See, it's not really all that much with 4 onions, especially when they're very thin like this. Okay, so now Margot is climbing up the cabinet to get my attention. And she knows that's where I keep the cat treats. And Abby's here. She's just up that way, on top of her little perch, so she can watch everything. But mostly she's dreaming about getting on the other side of the room divider, where the gardening stuff is. We've already been back in there this morning. And once I get these onions going, I'm going to be going back in there to make another video. This could be a very productive day since I'm not going to work. Okay. Here we go again. Squish, squish. And hold it down. Usually by the third or fourth one I finally get my rhythm. It's still better than slicing by hand. It's careful. Okay. That's the end of that one. Okay, I have to avoid the temptation to touch anything except for that. Now these last little bits on top, I'm just going to shake out without touching the blade. And then, without too much of a mess, not too bad. Let's pull this one out. Give me all of them. Look at that. Usually I'm faster at this when I'm not trying to impress you. Okay, I'll put this to the side. I shouldn't have looked at her. So here we have 4 medium-sized sweet onions ready to go in the pan. So I'm going to heat up my oil. Let's see. Okay. And now we're going to add all the onions. Look how many. It looks like it's overcrowded. And like I said, when I put the salt in, it's going to bring out all the moisture and they're going to shrink down. So, let's get this. Alright. So I'm going to put about a teaspoon. Mix it in. And I'll just leave it for a little bit as it heats up and then give it another stir to get the salt distributed. And then I'm going to go to the other room for a little while. I'm going to start out on medium-high heat to get the temperature going. Since I'm going to be standing here watching it, I'm going to clean this mess up and finish cutting these. And then I'm going to clean all the mushrooms. Open this package of the organic criminies. I'm going to use all of them with the mushrooms. Mushroom broth. she's trying to get in the dish cabinets. She's just trying to annoy me. It's working, Margot. You're annoying me. She's just too cute, though. Right. Add the rest of this. Okay, so it's sizzling away. You can see it's well mixed with the salt and it's creating a little moisture right there. So it's going to be safe to leave it for a little bit. But not too long. So, okay. I'm going to deal with these messy mushrooms. And then I'll come back and show you the broth with the mushrooms in it, and I'll decide whether I should strain, just squash the mushrooms through a strainer and just get the juice out, or whether I should actually chop it all up in the food processor. But then we'll add all the seasonings to the broth. The last thing that we do with the onions after we've added the sugar and we've cooked it down is to put in a couple little spoons of the flour just to thicken it all up nicely, so when we put the liquid in, it'll have a nice consistency, not too thick and not too watery. All right then, I'll be back in a little bit, and I'm back. It's been 30 minutes. The onions are looking fabulous. Let me show you. So they've been on kind of low, and you can see that all the moisture has been absorbed, but they're not sticking. The olive oil has kept it from getting stuck. And all of the salt has caused the moisture to be evaporated. So they're almost transparent at this point. Now we're going to add some sugar. Sugar. A teaspoon. I'm just going to do my thing. Do the shaking pretty good so it distributes it, so it's not too much. But this is important because you want the onions to caramelize a little bit. So, the secret to this recipe is low and slow. Just don't rush it. Keep it on low. Okay. Now it's really squishy. And this is when you gotta pay attention because you don't want it to burn, but you want it to brown a little bit. Put it up a little higher just for a minute, and then I'll stir it again and put it down. And meanwhile, got all the mushrooms chopped up. Chop. These nice dark brown criminy mushrooms. And I'm going to add a little bit of salt to them. Just a little. I'm trying to get all the juice to come out. It's about a teaspoon or less. Okay. And I decided I'm not going to puree this because I did do that one time. It was really good, but it was more of a mushroom soup than French onion, so we're just going to use the flavor. So I'm just going to put about a cup or two of that, just enough to come up almost to the level. So they get nice and wet, and then I'm going to cook these down for a little bit while I'm keeping an eye on the onions. And Abby morning snacks. I've got it pretty high under the mushrooms. Give a stir to the onions. It's hard to believe this is going to go another 30 minutes, but do your best to wait it out. Put it on lower. I'm going to put it down a little bit more now. Okay. Mushrooms are cooking. Onions are on the second step. After that's ready, I'm going to add a little flour to the onions. Mix it all up and let the flour cook off. That'll help to keep it a little bit thick. And then we're going to add the rest of this and the broth that we squeeze out of the mushroom mix here. And some Marmite. And Samuel Adams lager, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of tamari. Oh, did I mention tamari on the ingredients? Okay, we're doing good. I have the other room all set up to do my transplanting. I have about 30 seedlings that need to be moved over to bigger pots. And speaking of bigger pots, a little cookware. It's oven proof. So we'll do 2 of those. And 2 of these. About the same size, but different shape. These have handles. This is going to be nice. Just feels like it's winter time again out there, so it'd be nice to have some nice, hot, yummy, delicious soup with that melted cheese and croutons on it. The mushrooms are boiling. Very nice and dark and rich. And I'll just maybe use a potato masher just to squash them a little bit and then put it through a sieve. And that'll just... yeah, actually I need to add a little bit of water. Maybe another cup at least. Because I want to have enough of the liquid to divide into these 4 containers. Alright. Smells good in here. Alright, so here's the onions. You can see it's getting a little, maybe you can't. It's getting a little tiny bit brown on the edges. I'm just going to move these around a little bit. Smells good. This looks like a big pile of mush, but... Did you hear that wind? Oh my gosh. No way I wanted to drive today. And maybe my car would be fine, but there's a lot of big rigs on the road. No, this feels like it's dangerous. A watched pot never boils. Or so they say. watched onions never caramelize. Bubbly, 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 bubbly. I'm afraid to leave right now. Okay, I'm gonna pause for these next 20 minutes so I don't use up my battery. And I'll be back to show you the last steps of putting this all together. Okay, so I patiently waited, and hopefully you can tell. It's a little hard to see with this crazy light, but in the pan you can see golden brown at the bottom. See the color on that? It's not hard or burned or anything. It's just lightly golden, where it used to be almost clear color. Okay. A nice brown on there. So that's done. And look, it's hardly anything left, right? But it's all gonna spread out. So let's put this. We're gonna put a little bit of flour on there. Sprinkle a little bit. I think it was like a tablespoon or something. I'm just going to put a tiny bit. Mix it in. I'm supposed to keep it cooking for another 5 minutes, but this pan's pretty hot. So I'm just going to let it sit for a minute. And now I'm going to strain out my mushrooms. That broth is smelling good. Okay. Look at how dark that is. It's like gravy. I'm going to pour it through here. Okay. That looks great. Okay. And we are going to I'm going to pour this into here. Now, I'm going to add some Marmite. And the tamari and the Marmite give that umami, that little bit of flavor that might be lacking because we're not using traditional flavor. This just boosts the flavor of the mushrooms. I'm going to put about half a tablespoon. Let the spoon warm up a minute. It should slide right off. Boop. That's like syrup. Okay. And I'll use this to mix with because there's still a little bit in there. Now I'm going to take the Samuel Adams Boston Lager or white wine if you have it, and you'd be more traditional. I'm going to add it to the onions. And I'm going to add a little cracked black pepper. a little over half a teaspoon. And tamari, I'll put into the broth. Tablespoon-ish. And that's it. So now I'm going to add all this lovely flavor. These well-cooked onions. It smells delicious. Gonna add that here. There they go. I've made it all in one pan before. I just added all the broth and everything right into this pan, which was good for using up all the little bits, but it made it a little harder to put into the smaller containers at the end. So now I'm just going to mix this gently, loosening up all those little onions, and now it's starting to look like French onion soup from a restaurant. Look at that. And these are just going to melt in your mouth. Wow, they're going to melt in my mouth. But you can have some too. All right, that looks good. Gonna get the rest of this Marmite in there. Then we're gonna taste it for seasoning. All that matters is once it's all together. Let's see. Oh yeah. Just the right balance of onion, strong onion flavor, mellowed with that mushroom, the umami of the, of the Marmite. A little bit of beer for pop. Very good. I'm going to bring this up to a good hot temperature. Then we're going to dole it out here on the little ramekins. I don't know what you call these. Little casseroles. Mini casseroles. Okay, let's heat this up. You don't want to boil it too hard or anything. Just gentle. Good. Here's the croutons and the cheese. I'm just going to make these all right now. I'm going to put one slice on top of each of these, but I'm also going to take maybe 2 slices more. And I'm going to cut them to little teeny pieces. Sprinkle that into the soup, and then put the croutons, and then put another layer of cheese, because that keeps the croutons from getting too soggy, in my opinion. That's how I like it. It smells very smoky and very cheesy. Little strips, and I'm just going to trim them, put them into little pieces that I can sprinkle a little bit. Also, it's suggested that you put the cheese in the freezer for a little while before you do it, but they were shredding it, so I'm not shredding this. It already came as slices, so I'll just do it like this. And these guys And this can go in a bag to go back in the fridge. Stay fresh. Stir, stir the soupy. Oh my goodness, this is going to be so good. I'm going to add the rest of the broth. See how that looks? I don't want to thin it out too much. Okay. Actually, I think that I'm going to use almost all of the broth. You can just see how the onion is getting distributed. Because I don't want to have soup that doesn't have enough onion in every bite. But I don't want it to be so thick that it's just a blob of onion. So I think that's pretty good. I'm going to bring that to a boil. And then we're going to scoop it into here. Oh yeah, put some of these. Then put some of those. And put some of this. And then I'm going to take you with me over and show you my beautiful convection 10-way device over here. It's a modern marvel. And we're going to do a bake setting for about 10 minutes. Yeah, maybe about 10 minutes at 300 degrees. And then I'm going to switch it over to broil just for a couple of minutes, just to get the top all nice and melty and browned off. And we will be ready to taste. Okay. I see this is coming to a boil. We don't have to cook it too much once it goes into the oven, but just like to make sure it's super piping hot, everything's melty, just like you get it in the restaurant. Alright. Got the cat snoring, got the wind blowing, got the little light on the front porch that's creaking and bumping, and trees are all bending. Okay, it's boiling. Okay. So, I'm gonna get a put our soup over here. That looks good. Okay. I've got a big ladle. And let's see if I could do this without making a big mess. I'm going to try to evenly distribute the onions. Let me get closer to you so you can see this. Let's attempt. You can tell it's getting late in the day. The light is changing. I've got it about 3/4 full. A bit more onion. That looks good. Look at that, steaming, steaming. Get that onion in there. And number 3. Okay. And number 4. So this would be nice to serve before dinner. You know, it's kind of light if you don't use too much cheese or too much croutons. But you could certainly make big bowls of it. Make 2 big bowls instead of 4 small servings. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the broth to this one. This one got shorted a little bit, but it has plenty of onions. Make them all even. Bring this up a little bit for you. Okay. Now, let's decorate them. I'm going to take some chunkies of cheese, put that on top. Well, they kind of sink in. That's okay. Shredding is a little better, so if you can get cheese that isn't already sliced, then you just keep it in the freezer for about 15-20 minutes and then shred it on this step. It's okay. And then I'm going to put in the croutons. Alrighty, here's some croutons, crunchy croutons. I'm going to put about 8 to 10 of them on there. However you like it. Okay, so here we are. Croutons. And now we're going to put the last layer of cheese just right on top, even touching the sides, because it's going to get that nice burnt on cheesy goodness. Okay, just push down a little bit into the liquid. Ta-da! All right, and now I'm gonna go get the tray to put these on, and then we'll move them into the oven, and I'll bring you over there so you can see. All right, so this is one of the trays that comes with this Ninja oven, so you can tell that these will all fit. I'm going to put this in here and I'll be right back. It comes with racks and trays, and it does everything. So here's the tray. Choose a function. So we're going to start out with bake. So bake. We don't want it at 450. We want it about 300. It's already cooked. We just want to heat it up. And 6 minutes is okay. Here we go. So it's a little noisy, but you can see it's on preheat. Watch how fast it preheats. this up. That's very warm, very hot to the touch. So that's perfect. Now all we have to do is brown the top. So now function is going to go to royal. And this just puts it at maximum high. I'm going to take the time down to 2 minutes. I'm going to stand right here, keep an eye on it. Alright, forgot to turn on the camera when I took these guys out. So here it is, sizzling mad lava. I think it's hot. Look at that beautiful top. Just gonna put a little spoon into there so you can see. Lots of good steam coming out. Look at that. It's like stuck to the side just like you like it. Nice onions down in there. And that nice herb croutons all melted in. Oh, baby. And now I'm going to get tortured because I have to wait for it to cool a little bit. There's one thing with French onion soup. I always burn my tongue. So there it is, guys. My goodness, I'm going to just have to take a taste. The natives are getting restless here at the house, so it's going to start getting noisy. I hear the dogs are up, cats are up. Look at that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Savory. A tiny bit of sweetness from the onions. The mushroom background. And the smoky Gouda. It's really nice. It's a little strong. You could use Swiss, you could use vegan Swiss or vegan mozzarella, I suppose. But I do like the smokiness. That's so good. Alright. This cheese is very nice too. It's kind of creamy. So, while I wait for this to cool off just a little bit, I'm going to wish you good eating. I hope that you'll try this recipe. It does take some time, but if you're just putzing around doing other things, doing the dishes or organizing things, you can put the onions on, and pretty simple altogether. Alright, let me know if you make it. Goodbye, till next time. Also, what would you like to see me cook? I'm kind of open because I haven't been cooking for anybody in a while. Okay, give me your suggestions. Talk to you soon. Good night.